Hello everyone, and this is a tutorial on how to make relatively terrible looking bridges over a landscape. So the way this started was I wanted to cover a few of the new nodes available in Houdini 18, and I ended up with this little exercise. So I figured, okay, this is not a bad way to go about teaching some of the new nodes. So I'm not covering, actually I'm teaching just one new node. So the thing to remember is this is specific to Houdini 18. Okay, if you're on 17.5, you won't be able to replicate this because the node itself is not available. So what we're covering is essentially a node called group find path, okay, which is similar to the find shortest path node, except that it connects 2 or 3 or multiple group islands together. So just to give you a very simple example, I'll make a grid, and what we'll do is I'll give it a few segments, and then I can just select a bunch of faces. Okay, so I'll select like a few faces here and maybe a couple here, and okay, let's say something like this, and then I'll press tab and create a group out of it, and we will name this to start. You can name it to anything. I'm just naming it start. And then all you need to do is take something called group find path. There are actually quite a few new ones. So you have something called group from attribute boundary, and then you have group lasso. Okay, or something called, the group by lasso is there. And then there is another new one called group expand. So there are a few new ones, but we'll just be covering group find path. Okay, so you can take group find path and then connect it, and then all you have to do is select your input group, which we'll call a start, and there you go. It just connects those groups together. You can also turn off avoid self intersection, so that will allow it to connect more. You can have primitives or edges. Okay, so you can do this as well, which is not bad. If it's a point group, it will select points. If it's a primitive group, you can select primitives or edges. Now, another thing you can do within this is if, let's say, after this group, I'm going to select, some more stuff. So I'm going to take, let's take a lasso, and let's say I'll just select, like this area, and I'll create another group out of it. And we'll call it, I'll call this group as bound. And then what you can do is if you come in here, and you have something called collision group. So you can turn on collision group and pick up bound. And what that will do is default what it does is it makes sure that nothing inside this will connect. You can try to do something like allow paths along collision group boundary, but it's selecting everything. So instead what you do is you turn on contain within collision group, and see, so now what it does is it basically it tries to sort of connect only within that boundary area. Okay, so you can sort of limit areas that way if you want. Like if I can take this and maybe like I can select, this, and then I can select, something like that and press enter. And yeah, so there you go. So now only these two are, it's connecting within the boundary areas. So that's roughly it. Like there's nothing particularly fancy about it. But what we'll do is we'll use this to build connecting bridges over a landscape. Okay, so that's essentially the exercise. So I'm going to delete that. And what we'll do is I'll start off with a simple height field. And what I'm going to do is, usually they're pretty big, so I don't want them to be this big. I want it like 10 by 10, so fairly small. And what you want to do is, since this is technically like a volume, the lower it goes, the lower your grid spacing should be in order to get enough resolution. So I'll make this 0.02. Okay, so this is sort of like decent resolution. Okay, then I want to give it some noise. So I'll pick up like a height field noise. I'm going to turn off center. I'm going to get the amplitude to about 5 and the element size to about 6. So it's pretty small. And I'm going to change the noise type to Whirly Cellular F1. Okay, so we'll get this. So something like, mountains. And I can increase the lacunarity to get, like Because it's like hybrid terrain, you'll get more detail on the peaks, so that looks better. And then I just make sure that center noise is off, otherwise it will be, like below the grid, and you don't want that. Okay, then I can come to post processing, and I want it to have some flat areas. So I'm going to turn on like clip minimum till we get like some flat or a lot of flat areas like that. Yeah, I think this is good. You can also try to adjust like the bias and gain and see what you get, so you can sort of, play around with that a little bit. Or, okay, so we have this. And you can try to adjust the offset a little bit so that we get a little more flat areas. We want like connected flat areas, like otherwise it's going to be a problem. Yeah, I think this is okay. Maybe a little more amplitude, like let's keep it to 8. Okay. Or go higher. Okay, this is fine. Like this is not great, but this is fine. For now, for our purposes at the moment, this is okay. Okay, then I want all of this to be at ground level. So take a remap. Okay, so take a height field remap and just say compute range and then get the minimum to 0. So it will sort of drop down like that, and then adjust the maximum till you're sort of happy with it. So there you go. So now it is all at ground level. Okay, which is good. Okay, the next thing is I want to smoothen this out a little bit. So I'm not going to do erosion. I'll just take a simple flow field. Okay, so take a flow field and connect it, and you'll get, it will calculate the flow field, but turn on adjust height. So it'll sort of eat into that, but make it about like 0.2 or something. And then also like increase the smoothing iteration, so it will smoothen out a little bit. And you can adjust the rain amount so it sort of, eats up a bit more into the whole thing. Yeah, I think this is okay. Yeah, you can turn off copy to mask. Okay. And then let's do one thing. Let's take another remap. I want to try and sort of like flatten the ground area. Okay, so I'm just going to take another remap here. Let's compute the range and turn this to 0, and I'll say clamp to minimum. Let me just see if I can adjust this. Yeah, there you go. See, so I can sort of like, I can cut out this sort of, the base waviness that is happening. Yeah, I think this is fine. Okay, so this is it. This is our, basic landscape. Now let's just give it some coloring. So I'm going to take a visualize. So we'll take a height field visualize and again hit compute range. And what I want to do is I want it to look like water. So I'm going to get the base to be like, like a dark blue or something. Just, adjust this a little bit. Yeah, go a little negative. Yeah, okay. I think this is fine. And then like I'm going to keep this to mostly like gray or have like a little bit of brown here. So like it's like a little bit like a beach, push it down. Okay, and then I'm going to make this green and set this to flow. So there you go. So you'll get something like that. Yeah, just try to bring the water up here. Okay, so this is fine. So this is our landscape. Okay, so nothing fancy, but this is the basic landscape that we want. Okay, now what I want to do as a final thing is I want to generate a mask for all the flat area. Okay, so we're going to mask by feature. So say height field mask by feature and plug this in and set it to mask by height and compute range, and then just hit invert mask. So you're selecting everything at ground level, right? Like temporarily I'll just turn off this thing. Yeah, there you go. So we're selecting all the ground level stuff. Maybe adjust it a bit more. So till about here. Okay, so this is fine. Okay, and then convert the height field. So take convert height field and we can convert this, and we can also turn on bake point color. Now we're going to take 2 of these. Okay, because what I want is I want one for the final result, but I want one which is just for my basic, bridge calculation, and I don't need that to be very heavy. So this one, if you want, you can keep it to like 2. So you get like a lot of detail out of it, but this will be like very heavy. So keep this to one side. You can also turn on like extrude base. So it will give you, like a flat base. See, like that. Let's keep it to 1. I think 1 should be good enough. And we'll take another convert to height field. And I'm going to keep this to like about 0.3. So it's fairly, low res. Okay, now, so the good thing is this will also sort of bake in all the attributes. Okay, so you see all the attributes become like point attributes. So your mask is also there. But what I also want to do is I want to do a remesh. Because these are quadrilaterals, right? So if you try to do like a connect, it will give you straight lines. But if you do a remesh, then it tries to sort of like, it flows a little better. So I'm going to do a remesh, and yeah, this is okay. Or let's try to go slightly lower. So we'll try to make it 0.15. Okay, this is good. So the attributes are still there, that you want. So what I want is I want to create like a boundary area for all the flat land using the mask attribute, but I want to select primitives. So what I want to do is take the mask attribute from point level to primitive level. So take an attribute promote. Okay, so you'll find an attribute promote, and I want to promote the mask from point to primitive. Okay, so this is fine. And then take a group expression. And I want to do two things. Like I want to select the flat areas, and then I want to just randomly scatter 2 or 3 points, which will become like the origin points for our bridge. And then I want to connect them together. So I'm going to just take this. I'm going to call this as, we'll call it origin. Okay. And then this is at mask greater than 0.9. So there you go. So you have all the flat areas. But what I want is for the path boundary, I want it to be a little more relaxed. Okay, so I'm going to just duplicate this, do Control C, Control V. I'll call this as boundary, but this I'll keep it really relaxed. So I'll keep it to like 0.2. So see, so it's sort of like the path will have a little more area to travel. Okay, like it won't look only for flatlands. Okay, so it should be able to travel over this peak. Okay, so if this is here and this is there, you should be able to go over the peak. Okay, but we'll keep that aside, like we don't need that right now. Okay, so this is fine. Now I can take a scatter. Okay, so I'll take a scatter and set the group to origin. And we only want about 2 or 3 points. So I'm going to force the total count to about 3 points. Okay, so you have this, which is fine. Now I want to select some geometry using these points. So I'm going to just take a small sphere and keep it to polygon, keep it fairly small. Okay, and then do copy to points. So copy the sphere over here, and then take another group. This will be my start points. Okay, and this will come in from here. So what I want to do is I want to group points, because you can't select primitives using bounding area. So you want to group points. We'll call this start and set it to bounding regions, and you say bounding object. So you'll end up getting, and then feed in this thing over here. See, so you're basically selecting like, those areas that you want. So this is fine. Now we want to convert this to primitives. Okay, so again, take a group promote and we will upgrade this to primitives. So just take this. You say form points to primitives. The group is called start. See, so now you have this. All right, so this is done. So what we have now is we have a group called start and we have a group called bound. And now I can simply just take a group find path and it should hopefully work. So if I just take this, and the first thing I'll do is over here in the input group, I'll pick up start and see, so you're connecting these. Turn off avoid self-intersection, so it will start to connect everything. The next thing is I want to block it to my bounding area, so I can turn on collision group, say contain within collision group, and turn on bound. Okay, see, so now it is basically just making sure that it is in this area. You can try to adjust it a bit more. Like if I make it say 0.5, or let's try really high. Let's go to 0.9. See, so now it can't cross over that slope. So if I'll make it 0.4, that is okay enough for it to cross over that slope. And if I come into the scatter and I start to change the seed value, you might see different results. See, so now I can sort of like, change between this to get different results. Okay, so now this is done. Okay, like our basic terrible bridge shape is in place. So now how do we convert this into a bridge? So the way you can do that is we'll take a blast and I'm going to delete everything except the bridge. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say group find path and do delete non-selected. And then I want to flatten it at a certain height. So take a simple attribute wrangle and I'll do at p.y is equal to 0.4 and let's just check where we are, if 0.4 is good enough or not. Okay, let me get a preview of this. No, we need to go higher. So let's go to 0.8. Yeah, okay. So there you go. So you get like, this height. And then I want to generate, like if you want, you can just generate pillars on the side of this, which should be okay. So what I can do is I can just take a line and point it in the negative. So direction should be -1 and just do copy to points. So you can take copy to points and this comes in here and just turn off transform using target point orientation. So they'll point downwards like that. And that's pretty much it. Like you can just do a polywire here or a sweep, like depending on what you want. But I can just do a polywire over here and make them relatively small. I can merge these together. Yeah, there you go. See, and probably do a poly extrude on this. So just do a small poly extrude, turn on output back, and we can color this. So just do a color. Yeah, I'll make this gray and I'll make the road black. Yeah, okay. And then just merge it all together. So now we'll get our final result from here. So just take this guy and then do a merge. Yeah, there you go. See. So if I'll do one thing. I'll press D, come to material, turn off the specular and get the diffuse higher. There you go. So there's your bridge. And the interesting thing now is if I come to my landscape itself, if I come to the height field noise and if I take the offset to something like at frame, or let's do at time. So what's going to happen is per frame it will keep shifting and you will keep getting a different result. It might not always connect, like it connects like 80% of the times. Like here it's not, like see that one is like really back over there. So naturally it's not going to connect, but most of it connects. If you turn on avoid self intersections, it will be slightly better, but it won't, like again, connection becomes a problem. So if you turn on avoid self intersection, see, so then it doesn't always connect, like it goes through more restrictions. But yeah, overall it's not bad. Like it gives you a decent, I think, like if you work it out a little bit better, you can then clean this up and make, better looking stuff. But yeah, overall it's not bad. It's like a decent way to make bridges. But yeah, the group find path node is pretty nice. You can do some interesting enough stuff with it. So, I mean, it's not just for flat surfaces. You can work it with anything. So even if you have like a sphere or any other kind of a geometry and you want to create like, connections between places, you can use group find path. It will work. Yeah, so that's basically it. So I'll make the file available. And in case if you have any questions about this or, any other thing related to Houdini, you can ask me in the comments or Twitter, Instagram, whatever is preferable. Okay. And yeah, I think I should mention this. For like additional Houdini trainings, you can visit my website, rohandalvi.net. I guess I'll put the link on YouTube, at the end of the video, so you can, if you're interested. Yeah, and that's basically it.